Hello guys, Crowan here, bringing you the Rogue 5.2 patch notes. First up, preparation is now a baseline ability, learned at level 68. This is actually a great move by Blizz for the most part, although it does make a lot of, it will make a lot of rogues move from playing how they currently have to a ridiculous overpoweredness. Because at the moment, rogues are about popping all of your cooldowns as fast as you can to try and get a kill in the first few minutes. Well, first 10, 20, 30 seconds, whatever, you staff your whole team in, you get a really good setup, and you just blow them up, and if you don't, you lose. And preparation, being a baseline ability, will mean that rogues are going to do that again. They're just going to do that, but twice in a row, and it's going to be harder to dodge that whole set of stuff. And I think this might actually make rogues crazy. I think what Rekful said on his stream the other day, which was take rogues' current abilities or whatever, and just reduce the cooldown. Don't need to give preppers a baseline ability, just reduce the current cooldowns of all of their stuff. Prep things, so it would be sprint, vanish, cloak of shadows, evasion, dismantle. This will make the the cooldowns are less, so then you don't double dismantle or double vanish. They're less of a cooldown, so you've got to wait for your time to use them, and then you got to choose then when to use them rather than just popping them twice in a row to try and get a kill. Next up, versatility has been removed, which is your redirect ability now has no cooldown, and that was a level 90 rogue talent. The new level 90 talent is Mark for Death, which marks a target and instantly generates 5 combo points. When that target dies, Mark for Death's cooldown is reset. This talent has a 1-minute cooldown. This also crazy for just, you pop this, you get 5-point kidney someone, and you're popping preparation, whatever and stuff like that. Just blowing all your cooldowns really early, and it seems kind of mad. It is a good move though. Like I like that rogues are getting buffs, but I don't like where their buffs are going. Do you know what I mean? Like, this might make them really overpowered, especially with some gear. It's going to make them ridiculous. So I feel like they need to change how they're buffing rogues. Next one is a new level 60 talent called Cloak and Dagger, which it gives ambush, garrote, and cheap shot now have a 30-yard range, and will cause a rogue to teleport behind the target. This says it has no cooldown. I feel like it needs a kind of a cooldown on how often this can be activated. Something around the times of maybe what's a good amount of time for this? Maybe something like 30 seconds, 40 maybe, because this is just going to completely replace the whole idea of using Shadow Step. Like, Shadow Step, there's no point. Like, obviously these you've got to vanish for, so that's the thing that changes them, so you have to be in stealth, but it will be mad, especially used with Shadow Dance. Next up, Burst of Speed now costs 30 energy, it was 50 energy, and can be used in stealth, and always grants increased movement speed in addition to breaking snare effects, but no longer breaks root effects. This seems a weird change. For the most part, I feel as though the energy cost is still kind of high, and they nerfed it in the last patch, if you remember that patch, and I don't know, is it going to be enough? Will they be able to, will this be a viable talent? I don't know. This is level 60 talent, so this is comparing with the last thing I just said, Cloak and Dagger. So let's say this get like a nerf to what it says at the moment, because this is still like patch notes for the PTR basically, so these might not go live. So this is 5.2, and let's say it has no cooldown, but because you could cheap shot their whole team even though they was like a million yards away from each other. So maybe let's say it has like a 10-second cooldown or something like that, so you can just use Shadow Dance and then pop cheap shot on everyone and then ambush spam someone or something. Let's say that. Right, Burst of Speed now costs 30 energy. Right, so it's only 30 and it was 50. Can be used in stealth, blah blah blah, but doesn't break root effects. So it's going to be good because you can use it a lot, so you're going to be able to move. Actually no, I'm going to say this is pretty good. The only part will be that it doesn't remove roots, but then I would say it's still worth taking, especially if you're like anyone who just slows and stuff. Like, rogues would be really fast, although 50 energy for 4 seconds probably isn't enough, and it's going to be a good gap closer, but not like, I think if they, it says 30 energy actually, isn't it? You probably could keep it up, but then you want to be faster than everyone else. That's the whole point of taking it. Maybe it's just going to be a good gap closer, but then at the same time, 45-second cooldown or whatever it is on Shadow Step, and then you've got that last thing where you can just vanish and turn up behind someone, although vanish isn't going to have that big a cooldown. Although, saying that, with preparation, you can use 2 of them, so you can just global someone with that ability. You could just cheap shots everyone twice by using that and vanish. So you like cheap shot their whole team. Well, cheap shot, vanish. No, yeah, cheap shot, and then turn into Shadow Dance. Cheap shot everyone else on their team. Spam ambush and garrote and whatever else. And then as you're about to come out of Shadow Dance, you just cheap shot everyone again. Go back and then ambush the last guy. And then you nuke the crap into him. Keep going. You can vanish. You can do that again if you wanted to. Just seems mad. Next up, Shuriken Toss now causes the rogue to throw Shuriken instead of auto-attacking for 10 seconds after Shuriken Toss is used. This actually seems a good buff. Feels as though it's a good way of changing how you're doing sort of thing. You know, double damage on your auto attacks, and they're ranged kind of thing. So it's like 30-yard range. It's a really good move. 20 yard, 20 energy. I think this is going to be a really competitive level 90 talent, if not, you know, mandatory, just because of how, you know, you get rooted and now you have something to smash the crap into people with. Next up, Deadly Throw can interrupt spellcasting when used at 3, 4, and 5 combo points, and upon interrupt prevents any spell in that school from being cast for 4, 5, and 6 seconds respectively. Was 5 combo points and 6 seconds. So this is just kind of a switch to how it's going to work, because before it was kind of harder to get off. You know, you had to get all 5 combo points, and now it's, you know, it scales to how many combo points you have, which really works kind of. Next up, Nerve Strike now reduces the effectiveness of healing provided by the target by 25%. This is a really good buff. This is like rogues get an extra 25% healing debuff on that target. Although I'm not sure if this is going to scale with the other with the current Mortal Strike effect, and if it does, so you're going to be taking somebody to 50% healing, and it's for 6 seconds, and I don't know if that's going to be fair at all. If it does add up, then, you know, 50% healing, so your 100k would hit for 50k, your 10k would hit for 5k kind of thing, would be mad. And I don't know if that should be able to go live. If it doesn't stack, then it's going to be shit. Maybe if it was to end up being something like 10%, so you would have, instead of the current 30, it would be, wow, I think it's 20, is it 25? I think it's 25, so yeah, it'd be 35%, something like that, or maybe even 40, you'd be okay-ish, but 50% seems a bit too harsh. Shadow Focus now reduces ability energy cost by 75% while stealthed. It was 100%. That seems pretty good change. That seems a pretty big nerf on Shadow Focus, mostly because people took it so they could open better, and it's in comparison with the other level 15 talents, which are Subterfuge, which your stealth breaks 3 seconds after dealing or receiving hostile actions rather than doing so immediately, which is sort of, you know, 3 seconds where you can't be, you know, hit kind of thing because you're invisible. And then you have Night Stalker, which increases your move speed by 20% and damage your damage abilities dealt while staff. So that's like when you're opening and when you're using Shadow Dance. So Shadow Dance, you kind of have to take Night Stalker, but then Subterfuge is the other one that people tend to end up taking. And Shadow Focus is the one that everyone is taking over Subterfuge because it is such a ridiculous buff to, like, your opener. Next up, Vigor is now the 4-piece set bonus and increases maximum energy by 50, and it was 10. So you're going to have 150 energy, which sounds crazy. That's a really good buff. I feel like that is a good way to move the buffs, because you need to get a lot of combo points up, and you have like this extra big pool of energy to use it, and you also can use stuff like that Burst of Speed earlier, so it makes Burst of Speed more viable in a sense. The other set bonus change, Deadly Brew, is now the 2 set piece bonus, and its effects remained unchanged. So obviously that's, you know, there's no point in me going over that too much. It's just Deadly Brew is easier to have. Combat, Vitality now increases attack bar by 30%, and it was 25%, so that's a good buff, a really solid buff. 5% increased damage, just flat increase. A nerf to Blade Fury though, which it now deals 75% less damage, so it's kind of mad. It used to give you 100% to an off target, and now it's 25% extra, so it's kind of crazy nerf. And finally, Subtlety, Sanguine Vein now increases the damage to the target by 20%, and it was 16%. And this is whenever you use Rupture, it adds it on. This is obviously a flat buff, and this is just to scale up their damage. It's not actually, when people are like, oh, it's a big buff or a big nerf, it's actually just scaling up their damage. It's not a big cooldown thing. You know, this is something they keep up constantly, sort of like Feral's flat damage buff and Monk's flat damage buff. But that's all on the rogue changes planned for 5.2. Some of these I don't wish to go through. I feel like rogues, just from based off these patch notes, obviously we haven't seen anything from the PTR yet because it doesn't come out until January. It's looking OP. Like, they're looking OP, they're looking really solid for everything. You know, maybe their damage reduction hasn't been changed or whatever, that's fair enough, but as we go into 5.2 we're going to get new gear, which means, you know, because the season is going to end, I guess, kind of. I don't really understand. I believe the season's ending and then we're having a new season, which would mean, as far as I can understand, that, you know, resilience is going to go up, so we're going to be hitting like 70% resilience, so rogues aren't going to need so much, and people are going to still be stacking resilience for over PvP power, so the burst is going to drop. So anyone that's worried, oh, the burst is still crazy, it's going to drop because everyone's still stacking resilience. If they don't stack resilience, then fair enough, the burst will probably stay the same, but then at the same time, like, damage is going to go up a bit, but everyone's gem slots are going to be filled with resilience, so it should drop unless you're too silly to stack resilience right now. So what you're going to see, as far as I understand, is rogues popping double sets of cooldowns, and they already do pretty good damage, and a lot of people are like, oh no, they don't. It's like, in their cooldowns they do, and they're going to have double cooldowns now because prep's base. And that's where it's going to lie. It's going to be crazy opener damage, and I don't know how people are going to really deal with that unless they nerf them, especially with the other stuff like I said, like, oh, you know, you're getting 5% damage increase here on combat, you're getting, you know, 4% increase on subtlety, so like the rogue current damage is going up, and they're getting other buffs to other things for damage, and I don't know if this is going to be able to be dealt with. I think they need to change prep, and I think if they take prep away and add reduced cooldowns on everything currently, so you can't stack cooldowns, so like it's sort of like the 2-minute big cooldowns, right, there is currently, and it's like, oh yeah, fair enough, but and that's like, oh, so they reduce the cooldown to a minute, and then they half the damage as well, so half from 2 minutes to 1, and you know, 20% damage increase to 10%. And what it's sort of like, rogues are like, oh, okay, so you nerfed our 20% for 10%, but it's like, but we can use both of those, we can use like a whole set of our cooldowns and then use this another set straight afterwards. And I'm not sure if this is going to be okay. It might be fine, who knows, I can't see it being fair right now, but they might change it. I think if they take prep and reduce all the cooldowns of every move, that prepping reduces the cooldown rather than making it having prep still, would help change rogues. It would help them be less reliant on their current cooldown situation, where you wouldn't, you know, Cloak of Shadows could be buffed, because Cloak of Shadows, like on the, how much, I think it could even just like reduce damage reduction from melee, because it would be fair enough to do that, where they would have, you know, a less, it wouldn't be affected by prep, so you haven't got to worry about them double stacking it. And same with like evasion and dismantle, sprint and vanish. Sprint could be like way better, and vanish could be way better, and everything all around could change and make rogues more of a, less of a, I've got to pop all my cooldowns in a few seconds and get everything to land perfectly or I'm screwed class, which it kind of feels like it is now. And with the damage buffs, it's still going to be that. It's like you're going to have an amazing opener and you're going to pop loads of trinkets off the enemy and big cooldowns and stuff, and then they've got to fight you afterwards, and you're going to still be hitting like any other class, except they haven't got those cooldowns to rely on, which is going to be kind of unfair. I could understand like a trinket or two, or 1 or 2 cooldowns in the opener. That's what rogues are known for, but not everything. It just seems mad. But we'll have to wait and see. Obviously, this is the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed it, and I will speak to you again soon. Bye!